Hey everyone. You probably noticed already how everyone is talking about Conor McGregor's comeback. Like the only question is whether the left hand is still there. And that matters? Of course it does. If Conor can still find that shot early, any fight becomes dangerous. But against Max Holloway, the problem is much bigger than one punch. Because Max is not the kind of opponent who lets you return slowly. He does not give you quiet minutes. He does not let you stand there and find your rhythm. He does not care that you have been gone for years or that the crowd wants one more vintage McGregor moment. Max makes you work, he makes you react, he makes every round more expensive than the one before it. And that is exactly what makes this fight so brutal for Conor. A comeback fighter usually needs time, patience, and a little space to rediscover what still works. Max Holloway gives you the opposite: pace, volume, pressure, durability, and 5 rounds of questions. So yes, Connor has a shot, but if you were trying to design the worst possible comeback test for him, it would look a lot like Max Holloway. And well, since my last video, I talked about why Connor has a shot. In this one, I will talk why Max also has one, except it's way bigger. Now let's get in for the juicy part. Connor's biggest question is rhythm. The old Connor was built on timing, not just power, timing. He was dangerous because he could make opponents step onto the left hand before they even realized the trap was there. Holloway does not move like a pad holder. He gives you false rhythms, changes tempo, and forces you to make reads under pressure. That is a brutal way to find out if your timing is still there. Max does not fight like the 2013 version anymore. Their first fight matters, but only to a point. Conor beat Holloway by unanimous decision in 2013, but that fight belongs to a different lifetime. Since then, Holloway became a UFC champion, built one of the best resumes in the sport, and spent years fighting elite opposition. McGregor's return is also being framed around that old win, but the rematch is not really between the same two fighters. It is memory against evolution. That is why this matchup is dangerous. Conor is returning to a fighter who never stopped becoming something else. Max has changed his layers, his pace is smarter, his boxing is more developed, his ability to read fights over time is better. He does not just throw volume for the sake of volume. He builds a fight, he collects reactions, he figures out when opponents are tired, when they are reaching, when they are losing their composure. That exactly the kind of opponent you do not want when your own reactions are uncertain. The pace is obviously the biggest threat. If Connor wins, it probably has to happen early, or at least the damage has to start early. But if Max gets through those early danger zones, the fight begins leaning toward him fast. Holloway is one of the best pace fighters MMA has ever had. He makes opponents fight more than they want to. He makes them defend while tired. He makes them think while hurt. And a comeback fighter usually does not want a fight that becomes more complicated every minute. Connor has always had cardio questions. That is not an insult. In the Nate Diaz fights, he looked like a truck has ran over him after round 3 and was fighting for his life in there. It has been part of his career for years. Now imagine if instead of Nate Diaz, Max Holloway was there. Sure, Nate also has a great gas tank, but Max is miles above him in the striking department. Connor is explosive, sharp, and dangerous early, but longer fights have often made his best weapons less automatic. He loses his form, his technique, and Max is the opposite kind of problem. He forces the exact kind of extended pace that asks whether your gas tank, legs, reactions, and confidence can survive. For a fighter returning after a long layoff and a major leg injury, that is a nasty question. The leg injury matters. Connor's last UFC fight was in 2021 when he suffered the broken leg against Dustin Poirier. That kind of injury is not just a medical note. Of course, the injury is mostly healed, but it affects trust. A striker needs to plant, pivot, kick, defend kicks, shift weight, and move without thinking about the repaired part of the body. McGregor has talked about preparing for worst case scenarios in training, but doing it in a fight against Max Holloway is different. Holloway is hard to discourage, even though he lost against Charles in dominating fashion. You never saw him giving up on the ground, successfully defending Charles' submission attempts for 25 minutes. That's grit. Connor's best path is making Max respect the danger early. He needs Max to feel the left hand. He needs Max to slow down. He needs the threat to become real enough that Holloway cannot just walk into rhythm. But Max has spent his career surviving dangerous moments and continuing to build. He didn't get finished by Volkanovski in 75 minutes throughout their 3 fights. He is not easy to scare away from his process. That is a problem because Connor's early success has often depended on changing the opponent's emotions. The aura battle is different now. In the old days, opponents did not just fight Connor, they fought the feeling around Connor: the talk, the timing, the pressure, the spotlight, and the sense that something bad was coming. Now Conor doesn't have that. Max is not some nervous contender. He has already been across from Conor. He has been champion. He has fought Volkanovski, Poirier, Gaetier, Aldo Ortega, Yair, Korean Zombie, and Oliveira. The lights are not new to him. The name is not new to him. That weakens one of Conor's old advantages. Max can lose moments and still win the fight. This is what makes him such a bad comeback opponent. Some fighters need to win cleanly from the beginning. Max does not. He can lose an exchange, adjust, and keep building. He can take a shot and still continue his work. He can have a rough first round and still make the third, fourth, or fifth feel like his fight. That is terrifying for a returning fighter because it means one good early moment may not be enough. The fight could become a test Conor does not want. If this becomes a clean, low volume distance fight, Conor has chances. But Max will try to make it a workload fight. He will make Conor defend the jab, react to feints, manage body shots, and answer pressure. He will try to make Conor spend energy even when nothing huge is happening. That is how Holloway breaks fighters. Not always with one massive moment, but by making the entire fight expensive. And well, in these terms, Conor isn't the richest. This is why Max is worse than a pure knockout artist. A puncher might give Conor a slower fight, one where both men are waiting for the perfect moment that could actually suit him. A wrestler might be dangerous, but at least the threat is obvious and concentrated. Max is different. His threat is constant. He does not need one perfect entry. He makes every second matter. For a fighter trying to find rhythm after years away, that is hell. Conor's path is real but narrow. He has to hurt Max early, attack the body, manage distance, and avoid getting dragged into long exchanges. He cannot waste energy showing off. He cannot chase a perfect knockout for 5 rounds. He cannot let Max build volume for free. He has to fight like a disciplined veteran, not like a man trying to recreate 2016. That version has a shot, but it is a hard version to trust after such a long layoff. The emotional trap is dangerous too. This fight is not just a comeback, it is a legacy fight. Conor is returning against a man he already beat, but that old win creates pressure. If he wins, the comeback becomes massive. If he loses, people will say the sport moved on without him. That kind of pressure can make fighters force moments. And forcing moments against Holloway is exactly how the fight gets ugly. A comeback fighter usually wants proof that the old weapons still work. Max forces proof that the whole system still works. That is a much harder test. Conor's left hand might still be real, his timing might still show up, his power might still be enough to change a round. But against Max Holloway, one weapon may not be enough unless everything around it holds together. And that is the harsh truth. Conor may have a shot at winning. He is too skilled, too experienced, and too dangerous early to dismiss completely. But if you were designing the worst kind of comeback fight for him, it would look a lot like this. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing it. It will help out the channel a lot. Peace.